All right, brother. We're live. Lyle.
We're live.
Welcome. This is episode 7 of the InfoSec to Insecurity. Okay, easy for me to say. InfoSec to Insecurity. What the hell is the name of the podcast?
InfoSec of something. I'm just more stunned that you made it to episode 7. That's all.
I know. I'm ADHD, man. Usually I do like 2 episodes and I forget for a couple weeks, and then it's like, oh shit.
How you're supposed to do it? Like you're supposed to like burn through 10 episodes in one day, and then you don't have to worry about it for a couple of months.
Yeah, I don't know. The FR Secure posted on their social media channels today. It was Throwback Thursday.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And that so that's the Unsecurity podcast. And I started that in, I don't know what year it is right now. It's probably like 5 years ago, maybe. And you know why I started that podcast wasn't to do a podcast. The reason I started that podcast is I wanted to spend an hour a week talking to one of my favorite people, and that's Brad Nye. Just him and I talking for an hour, and whatever we end up talking about, great. You know, it was quality time.
Yeah. Scriptless discussion.
And that's the same thing with this podcast. This is about mental health for me. You have to take care of your mental health. There's a lot of things I see in this industry and a lot of things that frustrate me. And to me, in my mind, it's just common sense shit. It's like, what the hell are you doing and why? And you see that enough, and then you start to question yourself. My dad had a saying a lot that if everybody in the room's an asshole, you're the asshole.
It's a great saying.
And so I'm looking around the room.
Great saying.
I'm like looking around the room.
It can be interpreted in so many different ways too, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a room full of assholes and you're an asshole, then why are you in the room with a bunch of assholes?
There's that way to look at it. Or the other way is
that's something my dad would say or would have said. Yeah, that definitely. And, make a decision. Don't contemplate making a decision. Just fucking make a decision. Just do it. Make a decision. Could be the wrong one, but hey, at least you made a decision.
People are afraid to do that, aren't they? I think
they are.
A lot.
Yeah.
Why do you think that
they're afraid to make the wrong one or the right one instead of just doing it? Right?
Yeah. I think people are afraid of failure. I think another thing that people are afraid of a lot is their position on something. They've taken a position on something. They've taken a perspective on something, and they don't know why. They haven't taken the time to really reflect on why they feel this way or why they're approaching something this way. And then when you challenge them, because I'm always the guy that challenges, like, why? Why are you doing that? Because maybe I don't understand it. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe you're wrong. Or maybe we're both right. We just see it from different angles. I've been in so many arguments with really good people that I respect greatly, even mentors, where we find out that we're actually arguing the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Just different perspectives. We're both, we're like passionately almost yelling at each other. You're like, wait, what are you saying? You're like, holy shit, I'm saying the same damn thing. Well, this was cool.
Yeah. People run into a tendency too of sometimes you just get so passionate about what you're talking about, especially in our industry. And it just kind of creeps up. Like, why are you agreeing with me? Right. But I also learned a long time ago that I am not. And actually I did that from being in business for 2002 is when I quit my day job and turned a hobby into a business. And I remember from 2 things. I had this mentor who said, he says, Lyle, under any circumstances, don't prostitute your business. You have your plan. You're going down your plan. And his statement on that was, well, you're going to get some guy who's going to do what you do, and he's going to be $10 an hour cheaper way back in those days. And don't under any circumstances prostitute your business and go $15 cheaper, just so you're cheaper than that guy, right? Worried that you're going to lose business. Just stay focused on your plan and what you're doing. And I've taken that to this very day. There's lots of other people around doing the same thing. It's like, nope, I'm not going to.
So that was,
that kind of gets you into trouble, right? Because you get
that was a business mentor that you had?
That was, yeah, he was a pretty successful businessman in a completely different industry.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
He made his millions in travel agencies, and he did it. And he's just a wonderful guy. He's been dead a long time now, but that was the first thing he said. And I'd go see him maybe once a month or every 6 weeks and just, bounce some ideas off him. And always said that, because you just get so, oh my God, there's that guy, I got to keep all my clients. I said, Lyle, what are you worried about? Like, you're doing a good job. People are hiring you. Just stay focused on that. Cut out the noise and just do that. I even do that to this day, when I'm switching over to InfoSec from MSP stuff. It's just, nope, this is what we're doing. And I'm just blotting out the noise. I get more animated now that I have a different focus and a different thought, because I was in that space and now I'm out of that space. So I get a little animated. It's like, fuck's sakes, why are you doing that? Because I was there. I know it, because now I guess it's bad in a sense because I know why they are doing it. And I was once there myself doing it, and I kind of look back on it with a bit of guilt. It's like, oh, really? Did I do that shit? What was I thinking?
Well, the difference between guilt and conviction, right? The guilt part is the part that, holds you back, right? You look back at something, and you're like, oh man, I can't believe I did that. And it kind of comes back to haunt you over and over again. And then the conviction thing is when you recognize you did something wrong, you change course. You become a better person for it. And I think that's one of the things I admire so much about you. And you have, as much as I can help it, I'd love to amplify your voice more, because you represent what's right in this industry. We were just talking before we went live with the show, how there's only one way to do this. I mean, security is security, and you have to define security. You have to understand the purpose behind it. You have to understand how to do it correctly. It's all about risk management. So when I'm out focusing on things that aren't my most significant, unacceptable risk, I'm wasting your time. I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting money. I'm actually hurting the business as opposed to enabling the business. I'm doing it wrong. And how many people do you look at our industry and they're like, are willing to admit that? I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was in that too. And even I think about it every day when it's just like, oh my God, the light bulb went off, right? I still don't know or understand what that mechanism was, that turning point that made me say, yeah, everything I was doing for the last 20 some years and the growth and the things I was trying to change, it made sense. It needed to be done, and I was trying to make an evolution to the next step of where I felt that the industry was going, those next steps. But then, once I finally got to the wall and made that choice to just, dive into the deep end, I still don't know what clicked in my head, when I saw what FR Secure was doing and what you were doing and stuff. I still, even though I saw it and I understood it, I still don't really comprehend what that click was that made me say, oh my God, holy shit, this is it, right? It's about risk.
Yeah.
I still don't know to this day. And I think pretty sure I'll never figure it out. Maybe it's just one of those things in life that it just happened. It was meant to be, I'm not a religious man, but I'm a spiritual man. I believe there's, something bigger than me, but it's just, maybe that's what it is. I honestly don't know, but whatever it was, glad I found it and dived in. So now it's maybe increased my stress level a little bit, because now I get really pissed off on what others do, but that's, I guess, part of the journey, right? Part of fixing the industry.
Dude, you're going to end up looking like me eventually.
But no, I can't grow facial hair, dude. See this? This is about...
Give it time. You'll be amazed.
Dude,
just like it's a miracle that you changed your business. Like it's a miracle you changed your business. I used to be the same way. I couldn't grow facial hair either. And then enough stress, enough pressure, enough
Is there something
anger.
I could buy at the drugstore to just do this and make it work? Maybe, I don't know.
I was reading today. I read a lot of stuff, from all kinds of different sources. I read today that I read that you can get beard transplants.
What?
Yes, some dude, because it was an article about a guy who had gotten a beard transplant, and he got it from he went with the cheap option, and it turned out that the guy who did it wasn't qualified and totally fucked it up. The dude that got the beard transplant was so emotionally damaged by it, he ended up committing suicide.
What? I'd give anything for
Really?
Yeah, like a ZZ Top type thing. There you go. Nice, perfectly square. That'd be awesome, man. My wife would not go for that at all. This gets a little bushy, and she looks at me every morning. It's like, did you shave today? No.
Yeah. My wife was like that too. It started as No Shave November. This was probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, oh, awesome. I always looked forward to No Shave November because I didn't have to shave. It's a pain in the ass to shave. And so I was like, yeah. And then it was over and I kept like not shaving. And my wife was like, are you going to shave? I'm like, I don't think so. She's like, well, you look like shit. And I'm like, because I tell the truth, but my wife does too. Actually, she's going to be in episode 8.
Yeah, I'm going to give that a listen. That should be, oh man, were you coming off a long flight from Minnesota when you decided to make that?
No, the older I get, man, I mean, you and I have both been around the block a while, a few times. And the more there's two things I'm noticing a lot more in my life. One is I give a lot less shit about what people think. And the other is I give a lot more shit about what people think. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I'm finding that too.
Yeah, perspectives mean so much to me. So my wife's perspective on things is actually very, very valuable. She's got a perspective. One day we were sitting having breakfast and she says, there's too much damn technology. I'm like, really? Tell me more. And she shared like a really eloquent argument on all this. And I was like, do you want to come on the podcast? She's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, because share this perspective. Because I think people will find it entertaining, one, to be married to me. Like, what the fuck is that like? And two, like, you're not a security person. You don't speak my language. I don't talk security with my wife, hardly ever, really, other than just maintaining order, I think, in our own technology stuff and everything. But I'm excited to hear what she's got to say about all this shit.
Yeah, they are definitely important. You sometimes take it for granted, right? Especially us as technologists, and then being self-employed too, there was a time where we're working for wages for somebody. For me, I didn't even work in IT for somebody else. I was in food and beverage for the longest time, coming out of high school.
No shit.
Working at ski resorts in town here, running kitchens and ski resorts and stuff. And, I just had one night, 12:30 in the morning, leaving work, blast to close up, come out of the restaurant. It's right at the base of the hill at Sun Peaks here in Kamloops, and the restaurant's called Massa's Bar and Grill. I'll never forget it. It was like 20 some years ago, just before I went into IT, and walked out of the restaurant, and I was the last, I'm pretty sure I was the last one on the resort, because the parking lot was completely empty except for one big giant white lump, which I knew was my car. So I struggled out there and I spent 20 minutes taking all the snow off. I fired it up, and we had a young child at the time. And yeah, so Alexa was like, 6 months old maybe. And no, it's just about a year actually. And I'm driving down, getting towards town, which is about a 40-minute drive, and driving back thinking, this is fucking bullshit. There's no more. I'm done. There's just no way. And then my wife's wherewithal to listen to me explain that this is just not a good lifestyle, right? It's total stress. We don't see each other. I don't see my kid hardly, because we're running back and forth between shifts. She worked day shift. I worked night shift. We pass in the wind, pass off the kid, and off we go. Just not a good lifestyle. And then I told her, this is nuts. I just got to do all I know other than running restaurants was some basic IT. She goes, okay, let's find a way. Let's do it. And
so that's how you got it. That's how you got into this industry.
Pretty much, yeah. And I said, a little white lie. Little white lie. I took a 6-month job. I went to university to take a Microsoft MSP course in basic networking, right? Okay. So I knew the basics. And then I got a 6-month job at Future Shop, which is Canada's version of Best Buy. And I was so green behind the ears. I didn't know how to query a modem at that time. But I'll never forget it. Dawn, she looked at me, she goes, yeah, okay, I'll hire you. I can teach you some stuff. And I did that for 6 months. And then part of your role as being an IT person at Future Shop is, of course, you had to help with sales and stuff, right? So everybody was coming in at the time needing to buy either a D-Link or a Linksys router, a good, nice little blue box that we all love. We should put it in a glass case, break glass in case of zombie apocalypse or something. You never know. You'll need internet.
Yep.
And they would walk to the tech bench and they go, yeah, I'm told I need this, but I have no idea how to hook it up. Just like, yeah, just into here, power it up, check this. And they'd look at me and go, I can't do this. Can you just come by and give me a hand? I said, well, I'm off at 9:30. Can I stop by your place that late? They go, yeah, sure. So I'd go there after work, help the little old lady plug in her Linksys firewall. How much do I owe you? It's like, don't worry about it. How much do I owe you? Fine, give me $20 for gas. And then management at Future Shop got wind I was doing that, and they didn't like it. And I'm like, guys, what the fuck are you worried about? I'm selling your shit. I'm not doing it after hours. I'm selling your product. What is the fucking problem? I was like, nope, it's conflict. Can't do that. You need to make a choice. That, thank God, Jeanette, she just like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And I went home after work and I said, they're asking me to make a choice. This is bullshit. She says, what do you want to do? I said, I want to do this for a living. I don't need to work at Future Shop anymore. She goes, okay, let's do it.
Nice.
And then I found a government program called Community Futures, which would give you basic business training and help you build your business for 1 year. They would allow you to collect unemployment and wages from your business at the same time.
Really nice.
It's a great deal back in the day. And
do they still do that?
Kind of a variation of it. So we were making, by what the amount of money I was making from running the business and unemployment, we were able to live, pay the mortgage and all this stuff for a year. And then I took off. And that's when I opened up Geeks to Go.
That's fascinating.
I ripped the idea from Geek Squad in the US.
Yeah.
And we got a couple of yellow Volkswagen Beetles, stamped the logo on it. And we were the first company in our town to do home visits for computer repair.
And for the listeners, what's your hometown?
Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada. So we're right in central British Columbia. And
that's still in like North America though, right?
Yeah, British Columbia, Canada. Yeah, we don't live in igloos up here. We're all good.
It's pretty close though. Is it snowed yet?
No, it was 9 degrees Celsius today, which is terrible with the conversion. Should always keep the tab up in Google.
I should too. All right.
Yeah,
so 9 degrees Celsius. That's going to be like what? 45?
45, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because Mexico is also Celsius.
Yeah. Oh, is it really? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, metric system down here. So everything's kilometers, meters, all that stuff.
So you're familiar with, so we'll get, now, be say November 1st this week, we'll be, 10 degrees. By December, we'll hit maybe just above 0 degrees. And then by Christmas, January, February, we'll be below 0. And in the summer, we're like 30, 35 Celsius.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. When I left Minnesota this morning, it had just started to snow.
Wow. No, we haven't had snow yet.
Because when I landed I had a layover in Denver and my wife said, she had texted me, but I didn't take the internet. I was like, I'm just going to sleep in this plane.
Yeah.
So I landed and she's like, did you make it out before the snow? I'm like, what the fuck? What snow? But I guess it snowed in Minnesota this morning. Speaking of that, I was up in Minnesota. Okay, so bringing it back, ADHD gets me all the time. The purpose of the podcast this podcast is to speak authentically, right? To be normal people, talk, this is how I talk normally. I'm not trying to put on some damn show for you. And it's interesting because I just got back I'm kind of known for that. And I went up to Minnesota to give a talk at the Cybersecurity Summit, which I guess is a pretty big thing. I'm the biggest pain in the ass for any organizer because they want your slide decks. And I'm like, I'm doing the slide deck like 10 minutes before I talk. Maybe. Yeah, I even was like, I got up. So I'm also like, I'm only there for the damn talk. I'm not there to mingle. I'm not there for anything else. Just like get in, get out, done. And usually it's somebody else that booked me. It's not like I'm not looking for speaking engagements. I don't want any fucking speaking engagements. So I come in the night before. Okay, so I'm getting this. And I even talked to like Ryan, Ryan, probably Ryan Cloutier. I texted him. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make a damn deck this time. I think I'm just going to get up there and talk. Why does people make fucking decks? Yeah.
Isn't a speaking engagement to listen to somebody speak?
I guess. So I was like, I'm all these years, 30 something years, I've never not made a deck. But I'm like, I'm going to do it. And so, but Ryan was like, no. There's visual learners. And I'm like, oh, I don't care. Fuck them. So anyway, I ended up making a deck, but it's funny. It's cool when you're at this age and you're at this stage in your career where like, I don't get nervous when I talk anymore because if you don't like me and you don't want to invite me back, I'm like, awesome. That's cool. I don't want to be invited back. So anyway, that was the talk. Come back here. Got in like, I don't know, 2-3 hours ago, whatever time that was that I texted you, and then we're here. So I always find it fascinating. I wish more people would share how they got into this industry. I've yet to find 2 identical ways that people got into this industry.
Well, they usually say that then, if you become self-employed, you're usually turning a hobby into a business. Seems to be the easiest way. So I guess you could say that about me. I always loved computers and some kind of electronics and technology. It seemed like the natural thing to do, especially with the networking stuff, right? Because when I was a lot younger, I was just fascinated with the ability of, linking up 4 or 5 computers old school through a hub and sharing stuff back and forth. That seemed pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then just getting to business, it was just, I guess, one of those combination of, what do? You need to get out of what you're doing. Something needs to be better. And I was gifted with those opportunities where I could actually do it. And then there was no going to university for 4 years like my friends out of high school and getting bachelor's degrees in computer science, right? Screw that shit.
Yeah.
What do you need fixed? Just what do you need done?
After this talk
evolved that way, right?
Yeah, and after this talk yesterday, I forget what day it is. Yesterday, there were a whole bunch of college students there from University of Wisconsin Stout, I guess. I didn't know that was I kind of knew that was a school. One of my sons went to University of Wisconsin River Falls, which I guess is like 30 minutes away. Anyway, but there was a whole bunch of students there. And given this talk, I was like, I've always felt like you've got the older generation, the generation that's older than us, that technology is kind of foreign for them. They spend most of their life without anything like this, And then you've got our generation where we have kind of one foot in the pre-tech era, where I used to have to go to a payphone, or I used to have to do the spinny phone thing to call friends, to where now, so we have this gap thing. And then you have the people that are coming up behind us who they don't know anything else. They never saw it. They couldn't even use that damn spinny phone thing. And so it feels like now in this part of my life that I'm really supposed to be spending more time kind of bridging that gap. But anyway, these college students were there and they all came up and talked to me, after I gave my talk, and I have some cool pictures that I'll post somewhere. But it was such a great opportunity to share some of the wisdom, I think. Well, speaking of wisdom, you know how you get wisdom?
For me, it's about experience, but life experience. When I say experience, I don't mean, I worked at a Fortune 500 for the last 15 years and I got, a doctorate in computer science. I mean, no, you're thrown into a Windows Server 2008 network and nobody can get on the internet. Can you go fix DNS? To me, that's wisdom and experience, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that's what wisdom is. I equate it, it's pain. And so you try to share these things that you've learned over the years. But anyway, these kids were up there and I was talking to them about, I think it's crazy how we put so much pressure on this younger generation to choose their career so damn young, when there's so many fucking options. When I went to school for geology. The fuck, there's a whole story on why I ended up in geology. I thought it was because it was because I could drink more. That's why it was geology. And I was on scholarship. I was on an athletic scholarship at the University of Minnesota, so I didn't have to pay for it anyway.
There you go.
Yeah. So there was a 3,000 level course. So it was only when you're in Division I in the United States, Division I athlete, you get to enroll in your classes like a week or two before everybody else does. And the reason why you get to do that is because you have a really challenging schedule that you have to work around, right? You have practices, you have weight training, you got all this stuff that you got to do. And so they had certain classes, and this is how they kind of game the system. I don't think a lot of people know this. They create these 3,000 level, because you have to have certain number of certain types of courses in order to get your degree. And so these 3,000 level courses for a lot of college athletes were difficult because you really have to focus to get those. They're hard. But the way they game the system is they make these 3,000 level courses that really aren't hard. My favorite one was Introduction to Everyday Living.
That sounds like grade 8 home ec.
Yeah. Well, so that was a 3,000 level course, and they only offer enough of it to accommodate Division I athletes. So they're not really cheating. It's open to anybody. It's just by the time you get there, all the seats are filled, with a bunch of football players, hockey players, basketball players, shit like that.
The easiest ones, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was, anyway, I went to college. I was a stockbroker.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So you have to pass two tests for that, a Series 7 and a Series 63. Those are bitch tests.
Yeah.
So I was a stockbroker, I was a bill collector, I was a loan officer, I was a cashier, I was a bartender, I was a warehouse worker, a furniture installer, a warehouse manager, all before I got into IT.
There you go. Damn.
Like you, IT was a hobby. My dad worked at Northern Telecom. They invented ISDN.
Yeah.
And so he was part of that team. And my mother she worked for IBM. So I always had technology, and I was an only child. I was always bored. I have ADHD, so expect a whole bunch of shit to get broken all the time. And that's what I did. I'd bring home a new, whatever computer. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I start tearing it apart and breaking it. And I got to put this shit together before my mom gets home. And then I couldn't put it back together again.
Yeah. But it's like that, like you're saying about college students, right? It's so, they're with our university here in town. I remember, years and years ago where the job placement rep, we'll go around to all the businesses or whatever, and constantly, I will say her, a wonderful lady, but she constantly harassing me about, Lyle, can I send you some resumes? Can I send you some stuff? And I was like, yeah, that's fine, but people you're sending me, it's just, wonderful applications, right? Yep. Wonderful grades, but they're either socially illiterate, right? Where it would be a cold day in hell before I send them to a client, right? Or you ask them some basic real world experiences, like, hey, I got a 30 computer network on, at that time would have been Windows 98 or Windows 7, whatever. Even Windows 7. I got a 30 system Windows 7 network with server 2008 that can't get on the internet. And check DNS, check DNS, right? Like DNS, what's that? So why are you sending me these people? Like, fuck.
Well, and that's the crazy shit, right? And that's the motivation behind this podcast is to make sure I'm not actually fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because I see so much of this shit, and then you gotta, like I said, if everybody in the room is crazy, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm crazy. But I can't figure out any other way to do this. So when you see people doing things the way they're doing things, you're like, the hell? Because you point out a really significant problem in post-secondary schools in the United States. I don't know if it's the same in Canada, because I would assume it is, probably pretty close. I ask, I don't have his business card, is here somewhere. Anyway, his name's Faisal something. I can't remember his last name, but he's a really, really well-known Metro State University in Minneapolis. Gets all kinds of cyber grants and center of excellence. He's all over the place. And he found me at the conference. I try not to be found at the conference, but it's hard when you're big and you got this big fucking beard. That's why I show up like 20 minutes before I speak, and I try to get the hell out of there right away.
You got a plane to catch.
Yeah, right. So he found me, and he's actually somebody I really like. I think he's an asset to this industry. And I ask all of them, and I was sharing this with him, I ask all these college professors that I talk to, what's your biggest challenge? What's frustrating you the most? And the one thing that seems to be pretty relevant is, or almost universal, is they're having trouble finding internships for their students. And I'm like, why do you think that is? I mean, let's go back to this purpose, this why, because there's a reason why. And I want to know if you know what it is, because I'll tell you what it is. And they're like, well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just people don't know what they're looking for. And I go, well, that's part of it. But if I were to hire anybody, I have a thing, right? I wouldn't hire somebody unless I have something that needs to be done. And so I need to align a candidate, a person, to do the things I need to be done. And what you're doing is you're not producing talent that can do the things that need to be done. It's that simple. There's no hands-on experience. And a lot of the shit that you're teaching, we have to unteach because you didn't do it right. I mean, it's just too academic.
That's the key, right?
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, that's like nail on the head without really saying you guys are fucking up, right? It's just like they seem to have this list of criteria that you have to know this, right? A little bit of network, a little bit of programming, a little bit of database, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Well, you know what? I'm not looking for somebody like that. I'm looking for somebody who has great customer service skills, can actually have a conversation with a client. And if they know what a server is, they know how a PC connects to a server, I can teach the rest, right?
Dude,
if they get on site and they go, you know, what the hell's going on? I can't figure this out. You get on the phone, talk to one of the guys, and you can, you know, work together to solve it. But if you can't be comfortable in that environment and liaise with the right person and talk a language that's not technical, which is hugely important, right? Then, you know, they're going to have a real difficult time finding their chosen path, and the instructors are going to be even more frustrated because we're graduating all these people and they're sitting there flipping burgers, you know.
Well, and they've been, and a lot of times I think they feel like they've been sold a bill of goods.
Yeah,
because they went to school and they had this expectation that they were going to get out and get a six-figure job, and they're not getting it.
They Google it, you know. Cybersecurity consultant. Look at that, 150,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm curious, did your mentor that you had, did he teach you? Is that where this came from? Because I've always agreed that you hire for the intangibles, the shit I can't teach you.
Yeah.
That's what I hire for.
That was one of the things he said. Yeah, 100%. You know, you can, and then
that's good.
A little bit, and then see, my university and education was being self-employed since 2002. That's my education, right? Somebody could spend 50, 60, 75 grand on a bachelor's degree in computer science. No, I spent that boots to the ground and breaking servers and screwing up client networks, figuring it out, and spent hours and hours on the internet and calling colleagues and finding YouTube videos. So a guy figured out how to do a server migration, blah, blah, blah. That was my university education, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and then going from MSP to InfoSec is finding yourself in FR Secure, and that was my education, right? To move forward, not that. So, you know, my mentor back in the day said something fairly similar. He taught me some basics. He taught me not to prostitute the company because somebody is charging cheaper for the same service, you know, just how important it is to relate with the customer at the same level, right? And not come across as being above them and talking down to them, you know, which is what
unless
got
they're
me
short.
Yeah, there you go. I'm 5'8", so I guess I'm kind of short.
Yeah, okay.
Which got me, you know, right away early on into the analogies, right? Compared to, you know, I think we've all used car analogies for things that are broke, right? And buying things, and you know, you get this, you know, you're still driving down a dirt road, you know, and all this kind of stuff. So that was my bread and butter, you know, and even I still use and take those lessons really to heart in what I do today, especially since we made that migration into full InfoSec. It became brutally important to get on that same wavelength and not talk about anything too complex. It's just, it's been narrowed down to risk. What is your acceptable level of risk in a way that they understand? And then emphasizing that what you have right now with your MSP, I know we're going to be talking about tools at some point, but
Yeah,
That,
if we get there.
yeah, you need those. It is important. It's not that your MSP is doing a bad job for you. It is part of what you need to run your business. All we're doing is looking at risk a different way, right? Yes, you do need the cybersecurity, which is designed to protect the technology. We're here at InfoSec to protect the data from any form of risk. Even though you think they're one of the same, they are extremely different, right? But the end game, right, we're starting here, but the end game is going to come, together at some point. Once we build the program and go through the risk assessment and letting the assessment dictate what we are trying to do from a cybersecurity perspective, right? And not just building your advanced stack, right? That's when my face starts to get a little red.
Yeah, every time you say advanced stack, I'm like, I get a little fucking angry about that.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I remember the first time I approached that, I was supposed to be 3 years ago now. And it was right when I was taking my MSP and everybody was doing the same thing. And I was getting near the end of like my frustration. And I decided, okay, so security's a thing. I see where it's going. Maybe if I call myself a security first MSP, right, that'll be my little bit of space between what the 15 MSPs behind me are trying to do that are all doing the same thing, right?
Right.
They're all rubber stamped doing the same thing. This is my little bit of a differentiator, even though that didn't last very long because everyone else started to do it. So I remember I was in a PAX 8 demo with Mike Lee, and I remember I asked him a question. I said, hey, based on the PAX 8 catalog, what do you think is the best security stack I can put together? It's like, I can't, but I giggle to myself, or I'm mad at myself that I even asked that the way I'm at things with today. It's like, oh, did you really ask about, you idiot? And I'll never forget, he comes back to me, he goes, nah, there isn't one. Your defensibility is based on your controls. It's like,
yeah,
okay. And then that was the beginning of, okay, I still got to do the MSP stuff, but wow, okay, he's really making me think. And that kind of started me on the path, and then finally seeing what yourself and FR Security is like, yep, okay, that's it, snip it.
That's awesome.
Into the deep end. Yeah.
When you mentioned analogies, because they're super important. Analogies are such a great way to get your point across.
Yeah.
If you take like what we do, I've always taken pride in my work too. That's why I get frustrated when I see half-assed shit all the time. Much like you, my first paid jobs, or where I really started to focus my specialty early on, was in networks, even to the point where I was teaching CCNP classes back I really loved it. It was, missed those days a lot. So I get angry inside. Sometimes I don't say something, but I get angry when I see people buying tools that don't know how to use them correctly. Take two carpenters, right? Obviously the tools are very important to their trade, right? Whatever you're building a wall, you're framing a house, you're building I don't know, whatever I'm sitting at here, this bar thing, right? And so you have a lot of people, like the good carpenters, buy the tools they need. They buy high quality tools, and they know how to use them. They're not dangerous. They create wonderful, beautiful things, and it's worth the money.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of people in this industry who are carpenters, in this same sort of analogy, that have no idea what the fuck they're doing. They have a whole shitload of tools. I mean, they have more tools than the super experienced, wise carpenter. They got everything, that they keep breaking things. Their work product is shit. They cut corners. They've got a whole assload of tools in their tool chest that they don't even ever use. They just sit there. Why did you buy them? Well, because it's a planer. Like, when's the last time you used your fucking planer? Well, it's just in case. Just in case? What the fuck? Buy it when you fucking need it. And so, in that same sort of analogy, I'm like a carpenter, where the shit that you're doing, you can do it all with just a fucking hammer, right? But you've got a hammer, you've got a table saw, you've got a drill press, and I'm looking at this and like, what the fuck? What the hell? Why do you have that? And they're like, and they almost make you feel stupid. And that's why, that's always a tell. When somebody has to come back at you and you feel like you're stupid, sort of kind of thing, take note. Because they'll be like, well, you don't have that? I'm like, no, I don't fucking drill holes in that's not, I'm building I'm framing a wall. Where the hell am I going to use a drill press for this? Or the table saw. Yeah, I can do awesome shit with a table saw because I've been trained and I use it properly. You're going to lose your fingers.
Yeah. Or what's even worse is, to add to that, is the carpenter getting all the shit they don't need because they think it will make them a better carpenter, or somebody will call them instead because they got $50,000 of fucking shit that they're never ever going to use, that will probably end up at the thrift store. Right?
Yeah.
That's what pisses me off the most. It's just
you'll end up at the you know why it'll end up at the thrift store? Because they went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Because they had to hawk their shit, and they got paid 30 cents on the dollar for what they paid for it.
That's right.
My mom has a farm up in Ohio.
Nice.
And she had 2 barns built by Amish people in Ohio. Watch them. They don't use hardly any of the modern tools. They don't use any of the modern tools. And they build the highest quality. Those 2 barns are amazing. I look at them, I'm like, holy shit.
They probably built it with a saw and a hammer. And that's it.
And their fucking brains, right?
That's right.
And how many people are working in our industry that are so reliant and so dependent on their tools that they're not using their fucking brains? Or they never went through this process. There's 3 things you need to be great in this industry. 1 is the intangibles. 2 is knowledge. You do have to learn shit. But 3 is experience, and you can't ever rush experience. It just comes with time. So you're not going to go from somebody who's brand new into this industry to a CISO in 2 years. That shit. And if you did, holy shit, fuck.
Congratulations. I'll buy you a beer.
No.
It's either that.
Holy fuck. I can't believe somebody hired you and my God, you're screwed.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Either you're a genius or
I suppose
you just conned somebody into a job. But
well,
no, it's the same thing with I always say, where at the end of the day, where is the responsibility? Where does that begin? And I know I hate shitting on the channel all the time, but it's just like the latest and greatest blinky light, and they just push it and push it and push it. And we all know there's lots of risk out there right now. We know that, right? And, and I hate to kind of throw all MSPs in the same bucket. I really don't want to do that, but it's almost like it's a combination of both, right? It's the MSP knows they need a certain tool set. They know they need a certain stack, right? And I think they have good intentions, right? Like the Sentinel Ones of the world, and, Huntress, like wonderful products, and they do wonderful things, right? It's needed, but between that and the channel saying, get it, and build. I saw an MSP advertising that 47 tools, 47 in their advanced cybersecurity stack. Fucking 47. Now, I don't even know where to begin with that. Number one, say from the MSP perspective, are you fucking high? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It just makes 0 sense to me that you would A, do that, and B, use that as a sales feature. And then number 3, how are you going to train all your people to use these tools?
That's it.
I don't get it. I just don't understand it. And I know I'll probably ruin my reputation talking about this, but it makes 0 sense to me that you could do a risk assessment that says, what's your do you have firewall management? And right away, it's, we got to sell them $10,000 worth of gear. Well, here's a good firewall management idea. Are you managing ingress egress?
Basic
shit. Start with that. And if you can't because of the firewall, then you upgrade it, right?
Let's go back to ruin your reputation. Because I think that's interesting. It's an interesting angle, because I think a lot of people won't say the truth for fear that it might hurt their reputation. The best book that I ever read about business, and I'm not a business magnet by any means. If you're surprised I'm sitting here, I'm more surprised than you are. The book is Start with Why. So everything starts with a purpose. So when your mentor said, don't prostitute your business by, lowering prices, another way you can prostitute your business is to change focus, right? It's to put money ahead of mission. That's a dangerous slope, because then money becomes the main reason why you're here. And so you will sell shit to people to make more money. You'll make quota. And so you just keep that machine going. So I think part of it is just that. It's sell more shit. That's how we get paid. We have employees. They need to feed their families. So that's how we make money. Maybe they haven't sat down and actually thought, especially the MSP market, because a lot of the MSPs seem like they've never really known what the fuck they're doing in terms of their purpose. They're very highly skilled, a lot of them, and they do good-hearted people. I think they don't mean to do what the damage that maybe some of them are doing, but they just seem like a lot of them started off, like back in Minnesota, there's, two of the biggest ones in that market. One of them started off selling typewriters.
Wow, that's way back in the day.
And then they went from typewriters to printers. And then they went from printers to IT, just IT, normal office type IT equipment, and they just keep progressing. Money was the focus. So they sold typewriters until the margins got too tight on typewriters.
Yep.
And then they went to printers until the margins got too tight on printers. You couldn't make money anymore selling printers, because I could go to the, Office Max or Office Depot and get my own. And then they just continue to kind of chase, but there's no like deeper, bigger purpose to why they're actually here. They just keep having to reinvent themselves over and over again. And so when things went out to the cloud, well, shit, now they're not buying as much equipment anymore. So now we got to focus on services. What services can we sell? And then, or products, like software products, stuff, their advanced stack. I hate that word stack, by the way. The stack thing, because I've been in this around for so long, that stack is like, they came up with that word just to try to impress people. Like it sounds impressive, like stack.
It's a sales pitch.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of, you just have more shit.
It's just a word. It's a word to sell more shit.
Yeah.
Really.
But then behind it all, when you talk about, I love you brought up like accountability. Who's accountable for this? Like if I sell you something that I know you don't need, that I know isn't going to help you, is it my fault for selling it to you, or is it your fault for buying it? There's that caveat emptor, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think the blame lies with a lot of different entities per se. I saw a LinkedIn post last week. I can't recall who posted it, but the essence was that, in 2024, is it 2024 or projection for 2025, there's going to be actively 300,000 new MSPs, and that ConnectWise and Kaseya are basically saturating the market for that space. And the replies to that post were really interesting.
I bet.
A lot of it was congratulatory. Whoa, this is great. Got more experts in the field, all this, blah, blah, blah. And me, being the anti-staff person that I am, I replied as like, I remember what I put. I said, is it just me, or am I the only one who thinks this is not good? Right? Because now we're in a position where, or actually, because of that number, is it 300,000 or 30,000, one or the other, that proves what I think we have been saying all along, is that you get a PSA, you get an RMM, and suddenly you're an MSP. Right. Which is one of the reasons why I got out of it. Right?
Yeah.
That's where it's at right now. So now it gets saturated. You got to find a way to differentiate. So then what happens? Well, we got the great cybersecurity stack. And who's responsible for building that stack? Yeah, the MSP has to build it, but the channel is pushing the product, right? With no wherewithal, whether can you, like you say, are you selling the client something they don't need? And what exactly are you trying to achieve with that? instead of getting to the brass tacks of, is what you are implementing for the benefit of the client and the protection of data, right? Which is why we're product agnostic now too. It's like, if I do a risk assessment and we identify a gap, I want to do an incident response plan, but we're not getting data back from the MSP, where the fucking backups work, right? So I got nothing to sell apart from building the information security program. We now have some accountability. It's like, okay, and this is actually a true story too. We're in the middle of an engagement. We're trying to build an IR plan. We can't get raw data back from the MSP, whether the backups work. And now everything's in fucking limbo, right? We got an IR plan to build. Got to build the IR plan so we can do some tabletop exercises to make sure everything works. And, we don't know. So then, well, what's in your MSA? What's in your master service agreement? What's in your agreement about what services are included? It's all about the protection of data, right? And risk management. It all kind of goes into this big pot where all they were sold was, we'll do A, B, C, and D for you. We got this great software stuff. We can take care of your backups. We got all your cybersecurity stuff. And then when push comes to shove through the assessment, suddenly now it's like, are you really getting that? Was it just a sales pitch? Right? Because you're failing the assessment, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting, because that has been the purpose. The reason why we've always been product agnostic on the FR Secure, and that's why, one of the reasons why I think, because it's a risky move. I mean, there's a lot of risk in making that decision to no longer sell product and go strictly to consulting. I started there, and the reason why I had to, or I felt like I had to, if I'm going to tell you your firewall sucks, it's because your firewall sucks. It's not because I'm trying to sell you a firewall. I never wanted that to get in the way of doing things right. But you bring up another really important angle, which is also true, is kind of bridging that gap, right? You have the MSP who's providing all these services and these things for you, and you've got the customer who may not know any different, and you can kind of bridge that gap and hold both sides sort of accountable in that equation.
Yeah, exactly. Even though we're there on behalf of the client to build the program, right? At the end of the day, that's what we're doing. But, I always used it that, there's no, like, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt.
Right.
Shit, I'm sorry. I am there to build an information security program for the client. And if that risk assessment, which is raw data, it's not manipulated to make anybody look good or bad, it's yes or no. And if it's no, then we fix it, right? And if the no is something that you're supposed to be providing, what do you want me to say, right?
Right.
I'm not there to sell you a product. I'm there to build the program. But at the same time, it doesn't mean necessarily that the MSP has done bad, right? It's just, if anything, we are making you look like superheroes, right? We're maybe getting project work, and we're trying to work together. And that was one of the big models with Secure Shield, is that, at the end of the day, our mandate is just to bring everybody together for the benefit of mitigating risk. There's no one is good or better or worse than the other. We're just taking the information. Not everything is perfect. There always will be risk. You're never going to be 100%, and that risk could be anything, right? It doesn't necessarily have to mean, are you testing your backups? It could be anything, right? But everybody needs to work together to build that program, which makes it so wonderful to do this, right? It's really,
You're kind of the Switzerland and all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then as it's building and growing, and it's like an organic thing that just kind of germinates. I get emails now from clients that are part of our vCISO program, and they're asking us, should we have this? And it didn't even come out of the risk assessment, right? I got an email the other day saying, Lyle, we're trying to, we're going through some hardware purchases. Should we really have a change management policy for this? It's like, holy fuck, yes, you're awesome. You're just from the program being built, we've educated enough that they're getting it, and they're starting to ask us stuff, which is the whole idea of this, right? There's no blame. There's no saying you're bad. It's just, let's work together to build it, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why FR Secure has the reputation they have, and you're building the reputation that you have. And we don't have turnover in our customers because they trust us. When you talk about vCISO services, we started way back when with vCISO services, as we never sold products and still don't, but the vCISO service, because we didn't know either. We'd never done this. This is back in like 2008. People would just pay us actually it was just me because I was the only security guy then. They'd pay me like $5,000 a month and to be their vCISO. And I'd be like, okay. But then I started like losing sleep over it because I'm like, I'm not earning this. You know what I mean? And so I started asking the customers that we had on this, why are you paying me? And they were like, what do you mean, why are we paying you? You're our vCISO. I'm like, I get that, but what am I doing for you? Like, well, we'd like to have you, there when we need you. I'm like, that doesn't fucking cost you anything. What you should be paying for is when I'm actually doing things, just me picking up the phone. I'm not, what the fuck? That's like what lawyers do.
Yeah.
But you key in on a really important point about what a vCISO does, and where I think you have found your niche. A vCISO provides information security leadership for your customers. It's nothing to do with selling product. It's two things, right? Consult the business to make those good information security risk decisions, and then you implement those risk decisions. In order for you to do that, you need to lead. And so you're providing this leadership. You're leading the MSP, right? What kind of leader is out there trying to make anybody on the team look like shit? I mean, that doesn't serve anybody's purpose. So I'm trying to, like you said, the MSP's there. We want the MSP to look good, right? If you are good. If you're not good, then, fuck, we're going to say it. I mean,
that's right. And that you're 100% right.
Truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's up to you. Do you want to do it right or not? And for the business, it's the same thing, right? We don't want you to look bad, but they have so much shit that they're not doing. And so you can't blame the MSP for not doing the shit that they're supposed to be doing because nobody ever fucking told them to do it. There's no leadership there. The business doesn't know what the fuck to do because they don't know what the fuck this is. So you fill that gap, and let's not cloud all the judgment and everything else with bias of selling you a product. I don't give a shit if you buy any products. I do give a shit if you make shitty risk decisions, but it's not my decision. If you decide to make shitty risk decisions, so be it. If you make enough shitty risk decisions, then I might make the decision not to be your vCISO anymore. But your business. And that's the same thing you do with life, right? If I were to walk through your house and look at your technology, look at your tech stack, if you want to be all cool about that, you would have things in your house that I wouldn't do in my house. But the same thing's here if you came through my house, because I have my own risk appetite. You have your own risk appetite. And I think a lot of times security people don't know what the fuck they're doing will say, well, what the hell are you doing? You can't do that. You can do that. What we don't want is for somebody to be risk ignorant. They know that risk exists. They're comfortable with that risk. And that's why frameworks don't work the way a lot of people, inexperienced people, use frameworks in this industry. Well, ESF says we need to do this. Well, that's not justification for why you do it. What's justification for why you do it is it's guidance. And if I'm not doing that thing, is there a risk involved in me not doing that? If there's no risk involved, well, then I'm not fucking doing it. If there is a risk involved, well, then is it acceptable or not? If it's not acceptable, then I'll fucking do something about it. I mean, that's what the vCISO does, right? None of that equation had anything to do with product.
No, exactly. And that was one of our vCISO clients told us that one time. It's like, and it was pretty simplistic. Well, we trust you because you're not trying to sell us anything.
We'll keep hearing that over and over again.
Smart guy, right? Smart guy. Like, you obviously picked up because we never said that, right? We're just, when we're making the initial, when we did the initial assessment with them and some discussions before they came on board, we told them our business model and what we were trying to do and all that. And one of them was that we're product agnostic because we want to be, just build the program and let the assessment dictate what we need to do, and I think, that still has a lot of growth to happen, I think, in the industry right now. It's still, I think, and you've been doing this since 2008, or 2025 in a couple of months, right? And there's still people that, get confused with cybersecurity and true information security, right? I've had people tell us that, yeah, we do InfoSec. So, oh, you mean cybersecurity? It's like, well, yeah, maybe, kinda, right? There's still that evolution of explaining what risk is, right? Because, clients get so fixated on cybersecurity protecting technology. They see it in the news every day, right? So they just get ingrained. You see on the local news, maybe their dedicated IT person talking about the greatest gadgets for Christmas or whatever and protecting yourself and whatever with a gadget. And it's right there on TV. Instead of asking maybe a basic question, do I really need that? Is it really going to help? Is it really going to protect my risk? Or maybe I should change the SSID on my router, right? And change the password, instead of the default one, right? But I think they just don't understand. And I think it's just our job to continue to pound it out on what the true difference is. Like I tell, a little analogy I use is that, when we talk about cybersecurity, protecting technology, and information security is protecting the data from any form of risk, try to get into the analogy things that talking at the same level as like, well, okay, you got your technology in one hand, you got your data in another, right? If I remove all of your blinky lights, do you still have a business? Because I got your data, right? And it's sound. But if I get rid of your data and you got $100,000 of blinky lights, do you have a business?
Yeah,
no,
that's a good point.
You don't have a business. And they go, well, and literally every reply practically is, wow, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, it's not your fault, right?
Right.
We're just told that we need EDR and MDR, DNS filter, and probably another half dozen things, right?
For sure. Well, and that's when you boil it down, you talk about wisdom, and that's one of the things I was telling these college students after the talk yesterday was at some point, my father, there's so much wisdom that was passed down to me from the generation that came before me. And there'll be a day when I'm not going to be here anymore. And I want to try to pass as much wisdom as I can on to others, because there have been many, many, many painful experiences along the way in this industry, right? There's been lots of times when, it might sound crazy to some people, but I can remember multiple times two times when I was so fucked up from this industry that I was just bawling in my car. I'm just fucking burnt out. I can't. Oh my God, fuck this shit. I'm gonna be a janitor. I'm be a welder. I don't give a city. Yeah, I don't give a, but it's always, you get through it, you have healthy people around you, that's the mental health piece. That's why I'm so passionate about that. That's all comes from wisdom. The thing is, from my perspective, and I think a lot of people that have the wisdom, is we continue to adopt new technology faster than our ability to use it responsibly. My father, the wisdom that was passed to me was shitty choices have consequences. And so irresponsible behaviors will have consequences. You may not be suffering those consequences now, but you will. You will. You absolutely will. And I don't want you to. I want to try to help you as much as I can not suffer those consequences. When you talk about misspending information security dollars, there's so many avoidable risks just in that shitty behavior. The number one thing that you can do with information security is it's the exact same thing. The number one thing you can do for safety in wartime, in peacetime, in your house, it's situational awareness. That's the golden nugget in all of this, right? I understand my situation. I understand where the threats are coming from. I understand my weaknesses. I understand where my risks are in my own house, right? Physically. Take that to your business. Take that to your tech stack, your advanced fucking tech stack. Great. You got more shit. All that tells me is that every time you add more shit to your shit that you already don't understand, you're just eroding more and more of your situational awareness. You're making the problem worse and worse and worse. What you think is making it better is actually making it worse.
Complexity is the killer.
All the fucking time. Because I tell people I love these college kids yesterday because, like I said, as I'm getting older, I'm really learning to appreciate other people's perspectives more. And these kids were like, well, you mentioned firewalls and, ingress and egress. And they're like, how do you lock down egress? That seems like really hard. Like, it is. If you've ever tuned an intrusion detection system, if you ever tuned like an intrusion prevention system, it's not all that dissimilar from that, right? I have to look at all the traffic flows through my firewall, and then I need to validate whether this is a valid, acceptable, traffic flow or whether it's not acceptable, right? And so you have to do a lot of analysis on all these data flows. And the more data you have, the more shit you have, the more data flows you're going to have. The more servers you have, the more tech stacky shit that you have, the more you're just making the problem harder. So if you don't want to do the basics, you just want to continue to add more shit and add more shit, what you're actually doing is making everything harder, because all that shit that you're adding still won't make up for the fact that you're not using the shit properly.
That's right.
There's a consequence to that you still will have to attend to at some point. You can keep pushing it down the road. It ain't going away. And I thought the breach that I was really hoping that people would really take note more on this one was the SolarWinds breach.
Yeah. Which one?
Well, the big one that, the biggest one.
Yeah. Because
there were some really key points there. One is everybody who suffered from that breach, they weren't using their firewall properly, probably. Right? There was one organization that actually was, or seemed to be, at least in this instance, the IRS. There was no command and control for that system, that infected system. It had the shit software in it, but there was no command and control. So really that mitigated the attack. That kind of killed the chain right there. And I don't know if you remember how that attack was actually first discovered publicly.
No, I don't remember.
It was FireEye.
Yes.
FireEye identified that some of the proprietary penetration testing and hacking tools had
that's right.
been stolen.
Yeah. They're still around, right? FireEye? Yeah.
They were bought by Google.
Lucky them.
And so here's a little like nugget, this epic, like one of the most well-known information security companies in our industry. Why the fuck were they able to steal your proprietary hacking tools through this vulnerability? Because you weren't using your fucking firewall correctly.
Exactly.
Among other things.
That's what I mean. The simplest thing, right?
It's like right?
Like the Sony breach, right? Click.
Yeah.
Brought down fucking Sony. There was, sorry to interrupt, but there was I had a friend who was at a conference and he just happened to be at a Starbucks across the street from the Sony main offices, and they were literally throwing servers off the second floor into a garbage bin, a transport garbage bin. They didn't even make a valiant attempt to try to rebuild. Just said, fuck it, throwing them all out, starting over, just because someone went.
Don't even get me started on the UHG breach that we're reading about more and more. But that's the thing. So I think there's so much ignorance, and there's so much just this continual adoption of new technologies, new tools, new products, that you just make it harder and harder to learn how to use any of it properly. And I would, and this is, take this to the bank. I would rather not spend an information security dollar than misspend an information security dollar.
100%. I remember I heard you say that all the time.
So here's the wisdom on that. I worked for this company, my last real job before I started Secure. I was a CISO it was like a $4 billion pharmaceutical company. MGI Pharma. I loved this company. I loved because they had a mission, and it was a mission that everybody bought into. We sold oncology drugs, and the oncology drug would help people in like the worst time of their lives, right? They're getting cancer treatment, chemo treatment, and the drug that we sold was called Aloxi, and Aloxi would counter a lot of the side effects of chemo, primarily nausea. So people that were considering stopping chemo treatment and just letting the cancer kind of run its course for quality life were extending their lives because they were taking our drug and continuing their chemo treatments. When you talk about a CISO, number one, our job is there to provide value to the business, right? The value in this business, obviously making money, but the value in this business was the mission. It was the fucking patients, which is crazy because pharma has a really shitty reputation just in general, right? But that was the mission. Everybody marched to the beat of that drum. And so as a CISO, my job is to align with control risk that enables that to happen as much as possible, right? Don't get in the way of shit. Well, this is about the same time as like network access control. became a thing. And so this was like 2005, 6 somewhere. And I bought this product. It looked cool, really blinky lighty thing. I was probably more impressed than I should have been. I should have thought things through more. Anyway, we spent $250,000 on this thing. So excited when it came. We racked it. We started to configure it, and it didn't take long before I realized, fuck, I need one FTE at least to manage this, and I'm not going to fucking be able to do that. So this is the bringing it back home that I wish every CISO, every fucking security person would feel this same weight. I felt, and I still feel to this day, that I stole $250,000 from this company's mission. The reason why I did is because I misspent that money. Tell me how that's any different than somebody just stealing that money. The fact of the matter is, the end result, you have $250,000 less dollars that you can use on your drug to make it cheaper, to reach more people, whatever. And so that's this misspending. There's so many ramifications. There's also the ramification of just risk management itself. When I buy a product, and I think that it's going to do something that it may or may not do, but I still need to use it right. Now I have a false sense of security. I've eroded a portion of my situational awareness because I now think that door is handled. I don't need to watch that door anymore. I got something there. That weakness that I thought I had, it's not there anymore. So I'm looking over here, right? I'm not even looking there anymore. That's a pretty dangerous spot to be.
That's right. Like a CrowdStrike.
And it happens all the time. We do, over the course of my career, I've probably done, I mean, this isn't an ego thing, but it's been hundreds of incident responses. And I can't tell you how many fucking times I've heard, thought we were protected against that. And almost every time the response in my mind, I may or may not say it. It depends on where we're at as in our relationship. You would have been protected against that had you fucking used it right.
That's right. And you look at something as simple as, what if, you got an environment with the client thinks that, oh, they're well protected. The stack, we're talking about the stack, right? Hey, the stack's protecting me. But even from a vCISO perspective, and say if you're in an environment where you got to have some HIPAA compliance, right? And maybe you're in a situation where, yeah, part of the HIPAA requirement is we got to run a pen test, right? So your wonderful stack just made my job 1,000 times harder,
right?
Because now I got to be able to perform an efficient pen test, but I got a stack of 1 million products sitting on your network. I'm not going to be able to get some tangible information from that pen test. So who's going to be the guy on the other end to manually configure that stack so I can at least do the test, right?
Well, you have the configuration.
Everybody suffers.
And you also have the maintenance of the stack.
Yeah.
Every piece of software you've ever bought anywhere, right? Computers, the thing that, and I think a lot of times people just don't think, we're so busy, and I get it, but I think a lot of times we are all our own worst enemy too. We make our lives busier because we keep making shitty fucking choices. Simplify the shit. Because the more I simplify, the better my attack surface is going to look, whether it's internal, external, whatever the threats are coming from. Less shit that I have to manage, less shit that I have to configure correctly, less shit that I have to patch on a regular basis, because everything needs to be patched. If you have any piece of equipment or any piece of any software anywhere that you can't patch, it's vulnerable as fuck, right? Anything beyond like hello world, and I've probably written a buggy hello world for because I can break anything, it needs to be, so you continue to just make things harder and harder. And most of the complaints that I hear from security people, CISOs, is how difficult their job is, how busy they are, how difficult it is to get buy-in from, executive management. And really, when you cut through all this shit, it's way too fucking complex. Everybody's fucking confused. Most people you don't know what the fuck you're even trying to do. And I'm not insulting your intelligence, but when I look at your tech stack, here's the thing. You don't even know what your fucking tech stack is.
Or why you have it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how many organizations have you worked with over the years that had a pretty solid software asset inventory?
Pretty few, not very many.
Right. So
You
Don't
can't
tell me
protect
about
what you
your
don't know. What was that you say? You can't protect what you don't know you have.
At least you can't protect it well. You can get lucky,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
That's so your tech stack is not impressive to me because you don't even know what the fuck your tech stack is. You have no situational awareness. Another interesting, I think, thing we hear a lot is it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. How about if it's a matter of how long ago it happened? Because it's still fucking happening.
Yeah. And you don't even know it.
Right.
Yeah. What's the average
All time?
attacker? Yeah. Attacker sits on the network, what, 7 months? Something like that is about the standard residual that before they pull the trigger. You
And
know?
that's gotten a lot shorter now because the thing about attackers, they run better businesses than a lot of the businesses we work with. They've gotten more efficient. They've simplified a lot of things. They've streamlined their attack. So the dwell time in a lot of attacks now is gotten smaller because I think they understand more about it's about volume.
Yep.
Used to dwell longer because I think a lot of times they weren't sure exactly what all the opportunities were in this particular environment, the pivot and the
It's really
what I can get out of this.
That's why I really love the risk assessment methodology going in. It's a really simple thing to do, but it's not really taxing to put a business through a risk assessment, and it really narrows down to that need, right? Like what exactly are you trying to accomplish, with the systems that you have in place, with the, software you have installed and all that. It really brings it to bear. And you probably even see a couple instances where after having a successful risk assessment, going through the roadmap, that you start ripping things out of the network, right? You start seeing that you've just overcompensated, because either a technology provider told you that you need it, or, something in the channel said, oh, we got to have these great things. And then the MSP buys it and resells it, whether it's part of a cash grab to increase revenue, or which, it happens, right? Increase your per seat price by telling the client that there's bad things out there. They don't know any better, right?
Well, and that's the thing, especially in that small to mid-sized business space where I think a lot of MSPs work and a lot of smaller consulting companies work. There's not a lot of room for waste there, right? And so it's even more important that we make the right decisions on the products that we're buying, because really the purpose for that company, everything in that, any inefficiency in that company is taking money away from that company's top line or bottom line. And so as a VC, I think the fact that so many companies have been doing this wrong is for so long, and we still have this perpetuation of just buy shit. A great way a vCISO can come into one of those environments and immediately provide value is to trim your tech stack. Let's conduct just a software asset inventory, and let's look at all these things. Which of these things are actually providing value to your business, and which of them are not? Which of these things did you not even know you had? And we can just trim that fat. And in my own personal experience over the years, we've saved, I never counted it all up, but it's got to be millions of dollars of shit that you didn't need. And the cool thing about a risk management perspective is every piece of software that I get rid of in your environment lowers the risk in that environment.
Exactly. And sometimes you even go there and say, we're going to this assessment, and we're just going to make it like you have nothing installed on your network, right? You got no EDR, no MDR, let's just go in there, under the assumption you have nothing. We're just going to say you don't have any backup, even though you do, right? And then as we're going through the assessment and checking things off, we're then able to correlate that to, do you have it? Great. So we know that question that we've answered yes links up to what you have, what you need, right?
Right.
Oh, but I see that I have 2 or 3 other products that are kind of doing the same thing. Great. So we're going to chop the other 3, right? Because we've already matched, right? Why do you have 3 or 4 different applications installed to solve one risk item on the assessment and the roadmap, right? So we're mitigating risk. We're saving you some money because we're canceling subscriptions. And then we just go down that road. And you're right. It's amazing what you find at the end. Or it's like, well, I had 25 things going to protect my network, but I only need 4. Wow. Okay.
Right.
How do we cancel those? Right. How much have you just
And then
saved me per month?
Then how much easier will it be to lock down egress on that damn firewall?
Exactly.
It's all pretty fucking logical. So if you started with that firewall thing, because that one comes up a lot, and I'm a big, like I've talked to a lot of MSPs, and I'm like, you guys put in the firewall and you say it's done, but it ain't done. You lock down ingress, maybe, but a firewall ain't completely installed until you've got it configured to block egress. It's a two-way street. Like, well, but we did, that wasn't part of the contract. And like, well, you should start adding that to the contract. You should actually start. But then the problem is, which may be a problem, is every time you put something new in that environment, you're probably going to have to revisit that firewall, maybe open up some things. But that's good because that's a checks and balances thing.
And then
Right.
what also, maybe it's just me, but what kind of answer is that? Well, it's not in the contract.
Well,
So are
because
you trying to say it's just not important?
I think it's because I think a lot of them didn't consider it when they sold the firewall, that's actually going to be a lot of work. So we're going to need to charge more for it. And I would get that. I mean, I would pay more for you to do it right.
But it seems like that should be, if we're truly trying to make change and help mitigate risk, a proper configuration of a firewall, since that's what we're talking about, should just be standard as part of their onboarding. And if it takes you an extra 5 billable hours to do it, then you do it, because we're here to mitigate risk, right? So they're already, to me, that already gets back to what, my mentor told me. To me, that falls in line with prostituting your business. Why are you including that? You got to lock it down.
Well,
is it because maybe it's a unified dream machine, and maybe either you can't or you won't, right? And then you're scared to go tell the client, well, you know what, we got to go get a proper firewall, Sonic wall, Fortinet, whatever, right? We'll work in conjunction, but this is why we're doing it. It's going to cost us much. That's why you hired us, right? As a client, I know maybe it's just me, but I would appreciate that, right? Instead of worrying what the client is going to say because, oh my God, there's $1,000 in billable hours because I have to configure a firewall. Well, okay, do the quote and do it, because that's something you would think is as simple as doing a patch on a system, right?
But that's what justifies that vCISO, that gap in the middle kind of thing, because from the MSP's perspective, their motivation is to sell more shit. I mean, I do fault them because they don't do it right, but then I kind of don't fault them because I get it. I mean, you have mouths to feed just like everybody else does. We just need to put some governance around it, some rules on how we do that shit. Because I've talked to a lot of MSPs too that, they want to start a vCISO practice. And so you're like, okay, and you start, showing them, whether it be through the CVCISO program or something else, and then they don't do it. And I'm like, why aren't you talking to your customers about this? And I think a lot of times they're intimidated, maybe, to do it. But which one of your customers, say you have 1,000 customers, which one of those customers doesn't need information security leadership? Every single fucking one of them does.
Pretty much.
Neither you're going to do it or somebody else is going to do it. So it'd be better for you to get off your ass and do it rather than somebody else coming in. Because if they're going to do it like the way you and I were talking about doing it, we would protect, we're not here to disrupt or throw the MSP out, under the bus. We're here to actually lead the security pieces of this equation. Hopefully you get a vCISO like that, a good one. Or you could get one that's not good. The bulk of the vCISOs in the industry today are probably of this variety, and you're no longer going to have this customer. So it becomes like, do you want to do it or not do it? The problem's not going to go away. It's not like magically, we don't need information security leadership anymore. Well, why? Because we have AI-driven bullshit, whatever the fuck. Good luck with that. It's not, you still need to be involved in the game.
Yeah. I wonder if they're, like you were saying, like an MSP will say, well, we want to add vCISO services to our portfolio, and, oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, something you should do. And they never do it. I wonder if it's just that perception to the client, right? It's like, say if you're an MSP and you have a client, say for 5 years, you're offering a wide range of services that includes cybersecurity and everything's humming along great. and then you approach them with this, that there just isn't the ability to explain the differences between InfoSec and what you're trying to do as a VCSO compared to what you're already offering in cybersecurity from a tool perspective, right? Like for us, it's pretty simple shit. So we can go there very neutral and talk about information security and mitigating risk that really does not influence what their MSP is doing, right? But I wonder if just it's still very difficult to approach the client to add that, and that's where they're having the stumbling, or they're a little stumbling block, right? They just don't know how to explain that difference in cybersecurity and information security, right? Or maybe they're afraid the client will say, well, shouldn't you be doing that for us already?
Yeah,
right?
We do get that a lot. There's a lot of that too.
Yeah.
Well, our customer already thinks we're doing that. Well, your customer, I mean, and that's a pretty easy one to overcome. I mean, you've been focused more on the technology piece, so that's why you keep leading with your tech stack shit. But this is a people problem. Not even a problem, it's a people challenge. I don't want to call it a problem because people don't like problems. I mean, the stuff we've been doing is really nothing more than the tools, right? It's providing the tools, it's making sure that the tools work, maybe. But what we need really around it is governance and roles and responsibilities. You know, I think if you were to talk to most small business owners, leaders, ask them what their role is in information security. You know, start pointing out, you know, things like that. And then it starts to make sense. Oh yeah, shit, we do kind of need that. Because once you get the governance piece sort of in shape, I mean, it has to start with the purpose, right? Everything starts with fucking purpose. Crazy shit is how many people just do shit, not just in this industry, but in life, without truly considering your fucking purpose. Why the fuck are you doing it? I'm an ADHD guy, right? So as an ADHD guy, about 90% of what I do every day, I don't know what the fucking purpose is. I just do it. But when it comes to things like this, it's like you really have to take a minute. So if an ADHD guy can do it, anybody can do it. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we selling these things? You know, the purpose for your information security program is and will always be to manage risk. That's what it is. Simplify this shit. Don't get all fancy with, well, controls, and blah, 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 blah. Great. We're all impressed with the big words and the acronyms. I came up with a cartoon character. The people at the Cybersecurity Summit really liked him. It's called Acronym Asshat is his name.
Nice.
Yeah. So all the acronyms, you know, so I call them acronym asshats now. I should start making stickers. So anytime people start, you know, using all these damn acronyms, I'll just give them a sticker and like, what's this for? I don't know, read it. Acronym asshat. I'm like, yeah, it's for the fucking 10 acronyms you just threw at me.
And it's ever evolving too, right? You know, that's
shit.
It never, ever change. Like, we're never expected to eliminate all risk. That'll never happen. And it will always evolve and always change. You know, I actually had an incident today. You know, we've worked for the last, 2 or 3 years helping this healthcare facility build their InfoSec program. And it first started off on MSP stuff. And then when I cut the cord, I went full on in building their information security program properly. And then, so now that's working really well. But then they had a phone call from the office manager. It was the weirdest conversation. She goes, yeah, the photocopier guy wants to talk to you. I'm like, what is the fuck photocopier guy wants to talk to me? I hate photocopiers. Like, I'll tell him to fuck off because I hate photocopiers, right? We all do.
Here.
There you go.
Yeah.
And he says, well, no, but like he wants to know, why he keeps having to go over to the office and set up scan folders. I said, well, he shouldn't have to be doing that. What the hell's going on? So it's like, okay, whatever. It's the afternoon. I drive on over there, have a chat. It turns out that all of this stuff we built about, segregating information responsibilities and who's in charge for what, the whole staff went on a free-for-all, completely went against the grain of everything we've done and just said, well, if I got a scan problem, I'm just going to call the photocopier guy. So it just shows, right? It completely evolves and changes. So now we have to get everyone on the same page again, right? And just make sure that governance is there. Do we have to pull in the CEO? No, well, I think we're fine. We'll just stick with the office manager. I'm going to have to go, maybe I have to do a face-to-face and actually talk to people and say, no, it's already set up for you. There's no reason for you to call that, right? So it just shows that it's not the tool. It's not the stack. It's about people. At the end of the day, it is about people.
And logically, no, you can keep chasing the product train, man. I mean, seriously, you see it all the time. And I think in the eyes of the people that are wise in this industry, what you intended to look like to impress, maybe, like we're impressed, like you tell me about your tech stack and the blah, blah, blahs, and you expect me to be impressed. What you actually look like is you look like a fool to people who know better. Because the truth is, like back to the Amish thing, they build a hell of a lot better product than you with your whole chest full of all these fucking tools that you don't know how to use. They look like experts. You look like a damn idiot.
Yep.
And that's what we're doing a lot of these security programs, when we're trying to solve these problems with products. Yes, you do need tools. Nobody would ever say you don't need tools. What you need are the tools that provide value to your business and in the context of risk management, and they need to be used properly. I hate next-gen shit because next-gen shit usually means a whole bunch of shit that I don't actually need in this damn product. I just need a damn firewall.
Next gen of what? It's like zero trust, right? Zero
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Why don't you just make a gen that works?
Yeah.
I don't want any more gens. Just give me the gen that works. Like, and for anybody who works at Microsoft, just make Excel work for crying out fucking loud.
This Office to boot, Outlook, that'd be refreshing. Can they figure out a way for my Outlook not to freeze every time I turn it on? Like it's, and even back to that, right? If it's, I know I sound like a broken record, but, why can't we, if we're talking about risk, why can't we just have our risk assessment dictate what we need?
Well, that's the thing. It's so
simple.
Logic.
Yeah,
Follow
it's
the
so logical.
The logic train of risk. I said information security is risk management. And anybody can challenge that, right? If you don't think it is, then let's talk. And I'm not going to make you look like an idiot. I'm not going to intimidate you. I want to hear how you see things because we're going to come to the same conclusion. I've been here too many times, been around these circles and been challenged enough times. Information security is risk management. Well, I can't manage anything if I haven't diagnosed it first. If I haven't assessed it first. We talked about cars, right? How can I manage the risk, like say car engine or make a car engine work if I haven't diagnosed the fucking problems first? I can't go like, oh, bring your car into me because it ain't running right. And I'm like, oh, I need to put a turbocharger on that. What? Why? It needs a fucking oil change.
Yeah.
I don't need a damn turbocharger. But that's a lot of what we're doing instead of diagnosing the problems first and then putting the right products in place. It's just putting the products in place and really still never getting to the diagnosing of what the problems are. So if it's risk management, I have to understand it. I have to assess it first and just simplify it. It's a 3-step damn process. You look at a lot of the risk management, diagrams, it's like 8 steps in the damn process. No, assess the fucking risks, make the damn risk decisions and implement those damn risk decisions and then do it again.
Yep.
And then do it again. And then do it again.
Yeah.
And then eventually, and this is what happens because we've done this long enough and I wish people would just trust you on a lot of these things. The first times you do it, it's very mechanical. It's not natural. It's like, oh God, okay, what? Yes, that's normal. And then the more you practice it, the more it becomes muscle memory. And then the more it becomes the way you do business. It's no longer mechanical. It's just the way we do shit.
And then if they're really on it, if you're really done your job right, it's like I explained earlier, the client asking us whether they need this, right? Based on our journey getting to this point. And really it's been like 7 months. And they're starting to say, hey, I send me a spreadsheet. I built this. It's like, oh, okay, this is pretty wild. Like it wasn't part of the roadmap. It wasn't part of the risk assessment. They just took things that they were tasked to do and thought, hey, I think we need to build this to make this part accountable. It's like, okay, great. We'll put it out a custom task and we'll mark it complete. And then, you get a little sticker.
Awesome.
get a little sticker, right? So that makes me feel really good because they're now part of the journey, right? They're understanding.
Amen.
So, and
when
that's all you want, right?
when you have a customer like that trusts you because you've put their best interests first, they trust you. They're not going to leave you. The cool thing too about we've been in this business long enough that we've been through ups and downs in the economy and shit like that. And it's funny because a lot of companies, when things get tight in the economy, they may not fire you, but they take a lot longer to pay you. Sometimes that happens. But when you become that trusted person like you become, we're always one of the first ones to get paid. Because it's like, all right, we got to prioritize our bills and who we're going to pay. Oh, we got to pay Lyle. We need him.
No, that's true. It's really quite funny how that works. And you know what? That doesn't happen, right? Without that, I will say at the end of the day, even us in InfoSec, we're still a customer service business, right?
Always.
And there's something to be said about, a weekly communicate of some kind, whether it's a phone call or an email, and says, hey, time for our next meeting. Let's book a Teams meeting or a calendar event, so I'll come on by and we'll have a face-to-face.
Well, you just
we'll
have
coffee really and talk about it, right? That is so important even still, right? Even if you really have not much to talk about as part of the agenda. Yeah, you'll talk about the roadmap and see how they're doing. But a lot of time we'll spend just shooting the shit and talking about how, what's working with the business. Is there anything else we can do? Blah, blah, blah. That's 75% of the problem. Not the problem, but 75% of the goal. It's just to have that, back and forth, right?
Well, that's how fast we've going. There's so many consequences to that. And another one, the consequences, how transactional everybody's become. You become a breath of fresh air because information security is also not transactional. This is relational.
Yep.
And so every relationship you have with your client, if you have good relationships with your clients, you'll understand the uniqueness of them, right? And how they want to be communicated with. You'll understand the nuances of, how risk actually fits and works in that business. It takes a little while for you to get there. You have to make these steps.
Yeah. So, I find myself fortunate because I used the same methodology when I was in the MSP space. A lot of communications, frequent visits, stuff like that. A lot of the time you're not talking about IT, you're talking about the football game yesterday, right? It's just that, you're not trying to be super good friends with them, but you're still developing that relationship of trust, credibility, likability, right? The big three.
Brother.
And that's, once that's in place, then we can start, hey, you know what? I got to talk to you, something flagged on the roadmap. We got to make a decision here. And because you have that trust, credibility, and likability, it's a 5-minute conversation. They go, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they also feel comfortable with the challenge. Always be prepared for them to ask why. I want you to fucking ask me why. I mean, it's crazy how many people don't feel comfortable when you ask me why. And I think a lot of times it's because you haven't asked yourself first, why am I doing this? I mean, expect that, and if you ever get to the point and God forbid any of you end up being deposed by opposing counsel, you'll be challenged all the fucking time on your whys. So why not just get into the habit of doing that now, justifying why you're doing the things that you're doing so that when the shit hits the fan and you do get deposed by opposing counsel, you'll have a reason for it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So Lyle, this has been dude, I love the fact that you've transformed your business because you've not only that, I think you've made yourself, I don't like to think of enemies and allies, but that's truly kind of what it is. It's like the people that are doing disservices to their customers that are making our jobs harder, it's hard to ally with that, right?
Yeah.
We try to educate them or put them out of business, to be honest. Because you're hurting people.
Yeah. It's still, you want it to be, you want it to amongst your MSP colleagues, you do, I would say I'm looking for validity in what I do, but at least understand what we're trying to do instead of constantly seeing it as a threat. Because let's face it, us IT guys, we keep everything close to the chest, right?
Right.
We think the next guy's trying to scope a client in 2 seconds, right? It just seems the natural thing in the industry, right? And that's just not what we're trying to do. right? At the end of the day, we're there for the client, helping to make the businesses, protect the business as much as possible. And we're not looking to, scoop anyone from anything, right? It's about working together on it.
And the only reason why you'd feel like somebody who's going to scoop your client is because you know that what you're doing with your client is a commodity. It's not valuable enough to where somebody else can't do it. And you're treating it as transactional instead of relational. Because if I had a solid relationship with my client, that goes a long ways towards protecting that relationship with my client. Secondly, if my client knows that I've always got their best interest at heart, there ain't nobody else coming and taking that shit from me.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, they're just not impressed with the blah, blah. They don't even take the fucking phone calls. So if you want these MSPs to have that same sort of protection, stop treating it like it's a commodity, start providing value to your customers and make it a relational, relationship. You got nothing to worry about. You can all be fucking doing this together. The shitty thing about this like competition thing is when you look at information security in the small to mid-sized market space, I would say maybe 10%. It's got to be 10%, no more. 10% of the total addressable market is actually doing security stuff.
Yeah.
Sort of. Okay. Us, we're all fighting over the 10%. Oh my God, why don't we fucking work together and go get the 90?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the logical, best approach. So,
I'm even going to some MSPs now. I'm going to start going, it's like, hey, explain what you are trying to do. And says, let's have a relationship here. Like if you're don't have the appetite to add vCISO services to your portfolio or whatever, yeah, but we'll help you with that. It's about working together, and about, fixing the broken industry instead of worrying who has what client or if someone's going to take the next client because, you don't want to work with the guy. You still think, even though I am not an MSP, I don't care whether they can't print. That's not why I'm in this. That's your gig. But they still feel that threat. But at the same time, okay, you're feeling threatened, but at the same time, you don't really have the appetite to apply that to your service offering and then work with us to help fix a broken industry. Makes no sense.
I'm so insecure that I want to keep fucking over my customer. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. I'm so insecure about myself that, I don't mind fucking over the customer because it will. I mean, honestly, man, when you stick to the mission, when you stick to the truth, there's like, you can't go wrong. And when you look at the opportunity, when you talk about going back to the MSPs and how fast that's growing, for us, it's even more opportunity.
Yeah.
Because
it is.
It's just more, because you have to do it right. There, you can't skip this. We're already like FR Secure. That's why we spend so much time trying to help other MSPs or companies like you grow, because let's do this together. I mean,
there's plenty of opportunity out there without fighting with the next guy for your slice of the pie, right? Or looking for your corner of the grass to piss on, right? And
at least when you work with other companies that are doing it right, you don't have to come fix your shit later. That's a pain in the ass. It really is. And there's been a couple of companies in our Minneapolis market that have gone out of business because FR Secure itself spent so much time fixing their shit that eventually their reputation went to hell.
Yeah.
You didn't want that, but that's what happens. So Lyle, we're going to wrap this up because this has been awesome. You and I could talk for a long time because you're like one of those truthful Canadian people, not one of those French Canadian people.
I don't speak French, but the poutine is really good.
Do you like poutine?
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah, it's got to be curd on it though, right? It can't be that fucking mozzarella shit. It's got to be curd.
Yeah, everybody likes cheese curds.
Yep.
Yeah, the stories. We're going to have you on again because we have to talk about my French-Canadian stories. I have lots of them.
And we got to talk about barbecue too.
Yes, I love barbecue. You got to come down here to Mexico someday?
Yeah, one day. Yeah.
You're welcome anytime, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. You got good barbecue in Mexico?
I make it, dude.
There you go. Why look?
I can make
Just make.
Yeah, we can do it exactly the way you want it. But one of the things I want to, before we wrap up, is I want people to know where to find you.
Sure. SecureShieldBC.ca Easiest.
Okay, so Secure Shield BC is all one, and
Yep.
then .ca.
Yep.
Okay,
CA, we're in Canada giveaway.
like it. I
Yeah.
like it. And then for anybody who's listening and not watching, Lyle's last name is a little challenging for some of us. It's Melnychuk,
Okay. Yeah.
which is
Are you going to make it a 10?
Melnychuk.
There you go.
Yeah, I've known you enough now.
Yeah. There's a
But-
lot of different variants of how
Yeah.
to spell and say my last name. In true
Yeah.
Ukrainian fashion, it's Nechuk. You got it right.
Melnychuk.
Yes.
Melnychuk.
Not Melnychuk, which is the lazy way.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not
there
about
you-
lazy, man.
You got ADHD. You can't be lazy.
Seriously. Yeah, there's no lazy here. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on and thanks for sharing, your perspectives. I was going to try to make this kind of a Halloween episode, but I wasn't creative enough and I spent too much time on an airplane before I got here.
Nah, yeah. Halloween's a weird
Next time.
thing.
Dia de los Muertos is on Saturday here.
Wow, you don't do Halloween today?
They do, the
Oh.
American people do here, but Dia de los Muertos is traditional.
Nice.
It's not really a holiday. Excuse me. It's a tradition. It's a day where the Mexican people honor their dead. And
Oh,
so
okay.
they'll build these shrines everywhere. They'll put things that the dead person loved or liked while they were alive. So whether it be cervezas or a meal or something, and they'll put it on these shrines and it's a remembrance thing. It's really pretty. It's
That's
beautiful,
pretty cool.
actually. Yeah.
Nice, like her Remembrance Day almost.
It's really cool, but they just, yeah. And they like to party. I mean, Mexicans, nobody parties better than Mexicans.
Oh, there you go.
I'm telling you. This guy's
Price of admission
awesome.
all alone to come down. Just hang out
That's-
and party.
Totally true.
Cool.
All right, brother. Have a
All right,
good
man.
one. We'll talk again soon.
Right,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Cheers, man. Bye, everyone.